Broadcasting on Star Worldwide Networks. It's Two Small Biz Guys. And now, here are your hosts, Zen Benefiel and Ray Silverstein.
Hi, I'm Zen, and
I'm Ray. We're your super duper small biz guys.
You're advisorologists.
Advisorologists. People don't know what that means. What does advisorologist mean?
Well, they'll figure it out as we go along here. We're going to be talking about goals today.
Well, I that's great because it's football season, so we're going to score our goals.
We are.
Maybe hockey.
And one of our goals is to explain advisorologists.
Okay, so you go ahead.
All right. Well, we're advisors, and we're the ologists.
Okay,
we're the purveyors.
I fully understand that.
Prognosticators, as the case may be.
You better explain that one too.
Well, we should be prestidigicate.
Oh boy,
easy for me to say.
You really have me
prestidigitors.
You have me thoroughly confused by this point. But okay.
Well, here comes the magic. We're going to be talking about goal setting. So, what's your experience with goal setting? Ray, you do a lot of peer groups. Your memberships, like minimum of 5 employees and $500,000 in revenue at the lowest level, and it climbs from there. So you've got a lot of experience in this area. What do you find in the goal setting process with your groups?
Well, I work with lots of small business owners and have done it since 1993. And the interesting thing is that small business owners in general don't set goals. It's surprising. You would think that people who participate in these peer advisory groups are really ones who want to grow their business. In general, they don't, but I can tell the ones who do.
It's like having a business plan. Most of them don't have that either.
That's absolutely true. But I can tell the difference between those who have goal setting and those who don't, because the ones who do are the ones who are really far more successful in their activities. And
they're planning. You know, you can fail to plan, but you don't plan to fail. One of the things that's necessary in order to be successful is to have those goals in place.
Well, my general feeling is, and my observation is, that goal setting really leads into the planning format. And if you just set goals to say, I'm going to do so much in sales or do whatever it's going to be, that's really a wishful thought unless you have a plan to accomplish it. So goal setting leads into strategy, which leads into tactics. Rather than just saying, okay, I want my sales to increase 10% next year, or I want to do $3 million in sales. To me, that's a wishful thought unless you have a way to do it. So when people say that to me in a meeting, my first comment is, okay, what did he do last year? And what are you going to do differently this year to really achieve that goal? So,
kind of like, what's important to you?
I got so choked up on that. I mean,
so the importance of that, why is the goal achievement so valuable, or the goal, I suppose in one of the questions that you would ask them, what's important to them in achieving the goal?
Well, I think the first aspect is, before you even achieve the goal really creates a direction of the business.
Kind of like a vision statement.
Kind of like a vision statement, right. And also creates what is the communication within the organization as to what we're going to do, how we're going to do it, where we're going to go, and what we really want to accomplish.
What's it going to look like when you're done?
Right. So if they don't set goals, they really have no idea. It's like going on the stream with no direction. So as they say
being in the creek without paddles.
Right. So if you don't have any road to follow, any end direction is good, or you'll get there. So goal setting means that you want to get to a specified spot at a specified time. So I think the benefit is that goal setting, if you do it properly, brings in the organization, because it should be both top down and bottom up. So people have
So everybody benefits. They're all on the same page. They're posted. You can see them. They're visible. You talk about them as much as possible, right?
Right, and you got to create buy-in. So if you don't create buy-in, you're really not really accomplishing anything. So the aspect of goal setting initially is to say, okay, here's what we'd like to accomplish.
The first step.
Yeah, first step. And then after you say, here's what we'd like to accomplish, then the next question is, okay, how are we going to do this?
What's going to take you there furthest and fastest, huh?
Right, and then who's going to do it, and who has responsibility to do the implementation, and how do we communicate this to the organization in total?
Now, how does that normally look in its expression? Are they written? Are they projected? Or are they put in graphic form, infographics? What are the kinds of things that you see them
Well,
or the forms?
Well, we'll talk a little bit later about the format, but most people do some type of written goal. But the other aspect is that if you do written goals, how often do you even take a look at them? You just write them and put them away in the book and say, okay, a year has gone by. But if you really want to be effective, you have to look at them quite often.
So post them right next to your computer so you see them every time you look up?
Oh, no, you put them next to your bed so when you wake up, you can really see what you got to do in the morning. I mean,
what a way to wake up.
Well, it depends who's working on your goals. I mean,
right.
One never knows.
Or who's, never mind.
Never mind. I can see that your goal for advisorologists is already out the window.
Right. Well, the drapes are drawn.
Okay.
So who will support me in that process of the goal setting?
Pardon?
Who supports us in the process of goal setting? What do we do? How do we garner that support?
Well, generally, I would find that the best way to do is you start off and you say, okay, what are the critical aspects? I mean, really what you want to say is, where do we want to be 3 or 4 or 5 years from now? And you're getting into what's
the big vision?
What is
right.
a big vision? And what do we have to really do to get there? So if I put it into a kind of a simplistic way, if a person says, look, I want to retire or sell my business in 5 years, the first question would be, okay, in order to do that, what do I need to retire in 5 years?
That's kind of a quick in and out.
And then you say to yourself, okay, where am I now? And what do I have to do to get there? So if I'm say 20% of the way there where I expect to be in 5 years, what do I have to accomplish by the end of year one?
And be as specific as possible in that.
Right. And then the next question is, what are really the strategies to accomplish it? So the aspect is that's an individual basis. But when you talk about goal setting for your organization, it's creating the vision, and then it's really creating the aspect of the team, because business is really teamwork.
So there's internal and external goals in that case.
There's really well, when you're talking about goal setting, I personally do goals with business goals, what I call personal goals, which are family, health goals, and then I also have recreation goals. The number of days I'm going to go skiing every year.
They've been working. You're pretty healthy for an old guy.
That's right. It must be working.
Yeah.
But one never knows.
So in that process, is there a barrier that comes up for most, or do they even discuss the barriers that come up in that goal setting process, or is that something that happens on down in the strategy meetings?
Well, they don't. They may talk about barriers, but I think the barriers are really the aspect is what are the strategies to get around those barriers? Because if you don't set the goals and you don't have an action plan, you don't have any barriers because you're just moving along.
Right. So how do you stay focused then? What do you do? What are the primary things that you can do or that a business can do to stay focused, both from a management standpoint and from a staff standpoint?
Well, I think you have the key word there, and the key word is really focus, because if you don't have focus in a business environment, you're all over. And I generally find that small business owners or small business people are busy doing. They think that
there's a lot of distractions in the day-to-day carrying on of doing business, right?
Well, they create the distractions, or put it in a better way, they accept the distractions because they really don't want to focus.
I think that's a much better word, because it is a choice of whether we choose to put our attention on the distractions or to stay focused on the goal.
Yeah, so the aspect is you really stay focused, and then when you have a focus, you now say, okay, this is the implementation that we have to do. What should we really accomplish? So when you get back into goal setting, you really take it seriously. The aspect is, where do you want to be at the end of a week? Where do you want to be at the end of a month? Because it's one step at a time to get there.
Okay. So we were talking about supporting. What about the ones that don't or won't support? Do you need to be aware of who those are so you can steer clear?
The ones who don't support. Well, you don't stay clear. The aspect is you have to get people to buy in. And if people don't buy in, then there's a question that you have a problem within the organization. And we talk about the aspect what I call organizational destroyers.
Right.
An organizational destroyer is a person who is extremely competent. They do the work very well, but behind the scenes they just they
nitpick and we could do this better if, or this could happen, or
well, worse than that, they just kill morale.
Right.
And basically, an organizational destroyer.
I hate those buzz killers.
You get rid of them.
Right.
So an organizational destroyer is somebody you have to move out of the organization because they're really not on the bus with you. So when you talk about people who don't
Depends
buy
on
in,
who's driving the bus.
well, that's right. Are you driving the bus?
Well, you've got your leadership that's driving the bus through their vision and mission statements and the buy-in that they're able to create with the rest of the organization, right?
Right. So when you talk about people not buying into
So the buzz
goal-
killers, the organizational destroyers, are the people that throw others under the bus.
Right. Now, the other aspect in goal setting is that you also may have to recognize what is the environment that you're dealing with, because when you make certain aspects on goals, there are certain assumptions that you deal with, and goals are not locked in concrete. You may have to make changes if the environment changes.
Well, it's kind of like the process of achieving anything. You set the goals, you work, you evaluate the results. You have some metrics to know what your results are. Then you look at the results and you figure out, okay, we made it, we didn't make it. Where could we make some adjustments? Make those adjustments and then move forward.
Right. Well, I couldn't have said it better myself.
Wow, I'm amazed at that.
Yes, that's right. So the aspect,
That's the advisorology coming out.
Oh, I see. I thought there was a wizardology coming out. My golly. But the aspect here is that when people have these and they get people in the organization and they have a teamwork to move forward, but then you want to check and find out where you are. And the other question is, if you're not where you expect to be, the question is always, why? I mean, what do we have to do? Is it something external? Is it something internal to the organization?
There's where the WIFM comes in. Because you've got to answer those questions. What's in it for me from your internal standpoint, the employees, the staff, your other leadership, making sure that they've got what they need. And then on the external side, you've got to be able to address what your market concerns are and how you can navigate through those.
Well, it's also the question is whether the behavior is correct and whether people are doing what they should be doing. So, for example, in sales, a salesperson should be making so many calls a day, for example. And if a person doesn't have the right behavior to achieve that, they're not making the number of calls on average, they're not going to get there. So the first question is the behavior what they should be in any type of activity, whether it be sales, or whether it be production, or whether just in the accounting department.
Right. Well, speaking of activities, we also have a website that we populated with a selection of small business curriculum. And we also have some worksheets up there that are available, and that website is practicalbizu.com. That's PRACTICALBIZ, the letter U.com. And just look for the website, the worksheet. Yeah, go to the website, look for the icon that has the worksheet on it, and you'll be able to gain access. And we've got several types.
Right, and they're really very helpful in moving forward. There is a goals worksheet up there that all of my people use, and I think it really gets you there.
We also have the goals worksheet on twosmallbizguys.com.
That's right.
As well. So, anything you'd like to say before we move on?
Well, my basic aspect is that people should set goals. It's an experience of practice, and even if you don't do it right the first time, don't worry about it, because you got to move forward and get in the habit of doing it. Habits create positive and also negative activity. So not doing it is a negative habit. Doing it is a positive habit.
Set the goals, make a plan, work the plan, and achieve your goals, right?
Right.
Okay, great. We'll be right back with you.
Two Small Biz Guys with Zen and Ray. We'll be back after this. As a business owner, have you ever felt alone at the top? You don't have to be. Ray Silverstein has worked with many business owners for over 20 years facilitating peer advisory boards. He is the proverbial mentor and tormentor. A Pro President's Peer Advisory Board is a confidential monthly meeting of non-competitive owners that give support, feedback, and knowledge. They know the adage, all of us are smarter than one of us. He has walked in your shoes, having owned and sold 2 companies with sales in excess of $60 million and approximately 1,300 employees. In Young President's organization, he participated in peer advisory boards and felt it was a key to his success. His passion is to help small business owners succeed. He knows peer boards work when you are open, don't feel like you know it all, are willing to put issues on the table, and willing to take criticism. Be his guest at a pro advisory board meeting to see if it works for you. There's no commitment to join, and you'll have a great experience. To sample a free pro business owner peer board, email ray@propres.com. That's ray@propres.com. There's no commitment or charge. Broadcasting on Star Worldwide Networks. It's Two Small Biz Guys. And now, here are your hosts, Zen Benefiel and Ray Silverstein.
Just so you get familiar, I'm Zen and
I'm Ray.
so familiar voices from your Two Small Biz Guys advisorologists.
Right, but I'm the ray of sunshine, so you're just the
I'm just Zen.
advisorologist.
I'm just kind of a what is.
What is? Okay.
I'm here.
Okay.
Speaking of here, we're talking about goal setting. SMART goals is what we're going to be addressing initially, which stands for specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely.
Well, the SMART goal is really an acronym, and in goal setting, you want to satisfy the 5 letters of the acronym, SMART. So,
Specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely.
right, but they're not dumb goals; they're SMART goals. So I guess if you don't do them, you must be dumb, but or really you don't have the energy to want to do it. So what do the 5 letters mean to you?
Well, for me,
Yeah.
well, let's see if I can come from an advisorologist point. You know, you really have to define where you're going, provide metrics that show you're getting there, or
Okay,
where
so-
you can adjust.
Okay, so define where you're going means you want to be specific as to what you want to accomplish.
Right, kind of
Okay.
goes along with the acronym for
Okay.
specific. Then the measurable, the metrics, you need to have those in place in order to know whether you're on track or not. You've got to be able to see them as attainable. You know, we can set lofty goals, but if we really think that we're not going to make it, then we probably won't. They've got to be something that is
Achievable, attainable, not a wishful thought.
exactly. And you've got to identify them. So then, on top of that, they've got to be realistic. They must represent an objective toward an end goal that you're both willing and able to work. Right.
Right. And
So then you've got to
lastly-
put a time frame.
Right. Lastly, they got to be timely. So what are the measurements or what are the specifics you want to achieve within a certain specific time frame? So when you set goals, you want to have the goals that you create satisfy the acronym SMART. The next question comes up is how many goals should a person create? Do I want to have 15, 20 goals? Or
Well, before we go on with that, I'd like to go back to the specifics a little bit to talk
you're
about.
being very specific. It's okay.
I am. I'm a Zen guy. Okay. So there's the 5 questions or 6 questions of who, what, where, when, which, why. Who's involved? What do I want to accomplish? Identify a location. Establish a time frame. Identify requirements and constraints. And specific reasons, purpose, or benefits of accomplishing the goal. So those are those 6, to take the whiff 'em a little further.
Right.
Strike one. No,
That's
not
right.
that kind of whiff 'em.
Okay.
We're going to hit a home run with this.
Well, I agree with all those aspects. But I find that a lot of people, when they create goals, they try to create too many. And I think when you want to have create goals, that is, you want to have concentration. Again, going back to the word focus.
Have a short list.
So we talked about focus in the first section. So if you don't focus, you're going to accomplish nothing. So the goal here in goals is to really accomplish something. So you really don't want to have more than 5. 5, I would think, is a maximum number within a time frame.
Speaking of time frames, what kind of time frame do you think those 3 to 5 should fit in?
Well, most people generally work on a year frame, what they say would like to be at the end of a year. But I also, which we'll talk about a little bit later, I like to break them back down into 90 days. Where am I going to be in 90 days from now? Where am I going to be 6 months from now? And you might even, if you want to get into tactics, you might want to say that word I'm going to be on, say, a month from now. So the aspect is a goal can be an action, especially the shorter frame goals, like a 30-day goal. A 30-day goal is really an action I want to accomplish. So, for example, if I'm putting together a social media campaign, because you're the whiz of social media, I'm not.
Sometimes.
So the aspect is, in 30 days from now, I have to define what the plan is. I have to initiate the plan. And that social media campaign is really one step towards what I call a 365 goal at the end of a year.
Okay.
So it's really an action step.
And then you bring that down, that 30-day goal, you really have to define what your daily activities and how much time per day that you're going to spend with that. Is that a good thing, or do you find that that's a distraction?
You can get to the point of being so organized you accomplish nothing.
Well, you have to have a certain schedule, because especially I notice with a lot of business owners and social media, the distraction is there. I mean, there's all kinds of distractions that want you to go clicking everywhere, and you don't really get what you intended to get done.
Well, I think the better way than saying I'm going to map out so many hours for this and for that is to basically say, this is the key thing towards achieving my goal, and this is the first thing I'm going to do today, and I'm going to get this done before I do anything else. So if you really say that the goal is important to you, you make it number one priority. You block out other activity. You get over the will to want to click,
right,
or make phone calls, and you basically stick to that high priority.
So there's mixed feelings. Speaking of the high priorities, do you find that with the high priority that there's a challenge, that there's a variety of challenges within those details? Some of them are quite hard to make or difficult or seeming, and this is all personal perspective, right? So is there a difference between those, or the timeliness or the sequencing of the priorities of whether to try to get that toughest goal first or start with the easiest one and work up to it?
Well, I don't think it's a question of whether it's toughest or easiest. I think it's what is most important. And the question is, if you are working towards what you really want to achieve, the question comes down to focus, and it comes down to effectiveness. So just to do what is easy and to be a doer isn't necessarily being effective.
Right.
So my perspective is that people in general have to think about how they become effective to accomplish what they really want to accomplish. If they aren't effective, they're not really going to accomplish. I mean, they'll be busy doing.
Right.
And they may get satisfaction from all this doing.
So is there a difference in joy factor between the two, between the doing, and the actual accomplishing?
Well, yeah, sometimes. I mean, for example, my daughter, when she was younger, she used to have a to-do list, and she used to put things on like get up so she could put a line through it and brush my teeth. So with her, it was more lines she put through it, but she was involved in 3 varsity sports.
Then you add things
time.
to it that you didn't know that you were going to do, so that you could put them as goals and then cross them off.
Well, it wasn't goals; it was to do things,
right.
And she felt a satisfaction from doing. So the aspect is doing is always great, and you find that the small business owners are so busy because they're busy doing many things, but they don't always think back as to what is really important for the success of my business and my organization.
Right. One of the things that I notice is there's a confusion between the process or the priorities of do, be, and have, or do, have, and be, when the reality is that you've got to put yourself in that place of being first, and then the doing follows the direction that is most important for the goals to be accomplished.
Right. I mean, the doing is the key to really achieving what you want to accomplish. And so we talked about goal setting, and basically I think that there are 3 different types of goals. One is what I call vision goals, which are out there 3 to 5 years. Next comes what I call 365 goals, which is 1 year out, and then there are now goals, and that's what you want to accomplish in 90 days. And as we talked about before, if you go into the website, www.practicalbizu.com, you can get these worksheets free. Just download them and have the practice to really do them. So the aspect is It makes
And you might check out our courses while you're there too.
Yes, you might want to. In fact, you want to even buy some. But the aspect is, you want to think about what you really have to do. What are the steps to get to the end? What are the strategies? What are the tactics you have to put in to get there? So it's not just a goal. The goal creates a strategy, which creates the tactics.
And I find personally that when you have that kind of focus, you end up doing what's necessary in any given moment. Many things, multitasking, whether you're actually doing it or not, you find that a lot of the little things that you needed to do in the process to meet those goals fall into that focus because it creates a natural rhythm and pattern into the doing in order to achieve.
Okay, well, let me give you a different type of rhythm, and that is a family vacation. If you don't specify or schedule it out, it always becomes an afterthought.
Right.
So the first thing I think in family activity is to put the vacation in your calendar first, and therefore you schedule the other events around it. So it becomes a question, if your goal is to have so much family activity, schedule it in, and then you can work around the other activities.
Right. And by working those schedules, then you'll have opportunity to play in the meantime once you meet the goals, which will effectively increase your joy factor.
And okay, go ahead.
I was just going to say, speaking of joy, it's been a great time. We'll be right back with you. Thanks for listening.
Two Small Biz Guys with Zen and Ray. We'll be back after this. Business owners want to call their own shots, make appropriate income, and control their destiny. Our passion is to help you achieve your goals. A Pro Peer Advisory Board is just the thing. It's a confidential monthly meeting of non-competitive owners facilitated by a pro who has walked in your shoes. He's your mentor and tormentor, moving you ahead. When you have issues or opportunities keeping you awake, where do you get help? Pro boards give support and non-biased feedback from your peers. To sample a free Pro President's Board meeting, email ray@propres.com. There's no commitment or charge. Email ray@propres.com. You're listening to Two Small Biz Guys. Now, back to your hosts, Zen Benefiel and Ray Silverstein.
Hi, welcome back. I'm Zen, and
I'm Ray.
And you'll get to know us better as your advisorologist, the Two Small Biz Guys, and we're talking about goal setting. So Ray wrote a great article that was published in Entrepreneur.com some time ago called 6 Steps to Smarter Goal Setting. So those are, just to let you know, plot them on a timeline, jumpstart your efforts, get it in writing, assign due dates, define your investment, identify your obstacles. So these are all things that you can put into that SMART goal framework. So Ray, let's talk about this. What do you mean by plot them on a timeline? What's them?
Well, a timeline actually...
Us versus them? No,
well, a timeline gives you...
We're all in this together.
Well, not necessarily, but in a timeline, it basically says what has to be accomplished by certain times. Otherwise, you're just falling behind. So the question is, can you break... the old adage is, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. So the question is, when do you take that first bite? When do you take the second bite on the particular tactic? So when you have your year-end type of activity, you want to say by the first 30 days, I want to be here. First 120 days, I want to be here. For example, when I used to have my companies, we used to participate in a lot of trade shows, and we'd use a trade show as a mechanism for introducing products.
Sure.
And so therefore, we would do what I called a backward clock. We would say the trade show is going to be July 1st. And therefore, by when do we have to have the merchandising ready? When do we have to have the cataloging ready? When do we have to, in other words...
Just like any event, there's a whole slew of pre-event processes and planning and strategies and materials that have to be in place so that when that event comes, you've got everything ready.
Okay, so the same thing is true in goal setting or in the goal. When I have a goal at the end of the year, whatever it might be, the question is, where am I going to be? Or what actions do I take? So if a person, for example, a common one is for people is to, I want to lose so much weight. So at the end of the year, I want to be so many pounds. So the action is, what do I do to initiate that program? So maybe the first thing is I'm going to go on some type of diet. Now, the other aspect is in goal setting, which we didn't talk about before, are the question of vision, looking at it all the time, and also broadcasting.
Well, the vision also doesn't, there's vision boards that a lot of folks are using these days. That can be a key factor. But there's also being able to maintain that vision in your own head and to be able to share it everywhere you can, right?
Well,
to those who will listen and support you anyway.
Well, the sharing brings accountability.
Right.
Because when you tell people, for example, I'm going to lose weight, or I'm going to do something, you're creating accountability to them that you're going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So goal setting also becomes a question in certain areas within your organization of creating accountability and creating the vision as to a...
So you first have to be aware that weight's following you around in order to lose them, right?
Well, that's...
wrong weight.
Depends on your eyesight.
Okay.
So the aspect is, I think that the timeline is where do you want to be on these different aspects of to the steps to accomplish it, which again goes back to the strategy, which goes back to the tactics, and the tactics go into time and activities. And when do I start to implement these activities, and what are the results of my activities?
So speaking of the activities then, how do you jumpstart your efforts?
How do you jumpstart your effort as an individual basis? I think it comes down to the...
Well, is it individual? Is it teams? Is it company-wide? I mean, there's a whole scenario of parts and pieces that have to be fit together in, for instance, like Senge talks about learning organizations and systems planning and systems thinking. How far in depth does one need to go in that direction?
Well, I think in an organizational aspect, it becomes a question of buy-in. So on the goals format, when you create these goals, there has to be a buy-in, and it means has to be a participation of people.
So there's a collaboration in the cooperation, conversation that creates that communication between, how's that for alliteration, and brings those people together as one in order to facilitate that buy-in, because when they're setting the goals, when they're acknowledging, yes, I can do this, or we need to do this, then by that suggestion alone, they're buying into their own creation.
Right. In other words, they're part of the team. They help create it. There's a buy-in, so therefore they're not going to be on the sidelines. They're going to be in the game.
Yeah, and this is not rocket science. This is a very simple process.
But on the individual basis, because goal setting is both individually and organizationally. On the individual basis, I think it takes a question of the person coming to the enlightenment that they really want to achieve something.
That's a Zen thing.
It's a Zen thing?
Yeah, but it's the ray of light, though.
Oh, no, there's a ray, but I don't know about the light.
There's quite an array here.
No, I'm not that big. We're not talking about that weight loss.
Right. So in taking that to the next step, part of that process is putting it in writing. So how is that done? Is that done through a note taker in the session? Is that done via the executive director or the CEO or the president, or is it a collection of all of that?
On an organizational basis, it basically, I think it's a question as to the politics within the organization, and the structure.
The culture.
And the culture. Maybe that's a better word than politics.
Right.
And normally what will happen in most small businesses is that the CEO or the president or the owner will basically take the information in, and they may put this on a board together, or he or she may just come out and synthesize all the thoughts and put them in a thought process and put it out for circulation for comments.
Right. One of the things I did that I found extremely successful, I did building road and bridge construction project team building or partnering meetings. And part of that process entailed having a mission or a charter statement that had 5 different goals backed up by objectives that were then turned into metrics to manage the flow. And at the end of all of that, I would print out that document and had everybody in the room sign it, which literally brought them onto the same page in the acknowledgement that this very act, right, forces that movement towards the acknowledgement and completion.
That's fine. So what you did was you basically wrote the goals out, and you put them in a format for people to read and follow up and see them.
Right.
And then the other aspect is you also have to present them periodically so that people say, okay, where are we? Are we moving forward? Have we achieved?
Sure, that's the metrics that was created from the objectives. There was a document that was used on a monthly basis to analyze the process, not necessarily the details, because it's the process that causes the creation and completion of the details, right?
Well, but it also creates the accountability.
Yes.
And with the organization, there's also the aspect of accountability that we are moving forward to achieve this, or also there's a delegation aspect to certain segments of the organization to achieve certain parts of this.
So you're assigning due dates.
So you're assigning due dates or agreement of due dates, but basically it's a question of where are we on the due date? Have we achieved it? Are we going to achieve it? And if not, what are we going to do to resolve this
where do we
delay?
need to adjust?
Right. I mean, we used to get involved in what they call PERT diagrams, which is very sophisticated planning, and we would see where we are on this PERT diagram, but on a very simplistic.
It's kind of a work breakdown structure diagram.
So basically, on a very simplistic type
right.
of plan, you really want to see whether you're moving forward, and when you bring your people together, and you talk about the aspect have we achieved, you're creating a peer group pressure for people.
Right, and when you put them into those diagrams, you've got your people, places, and things in order with budgets, with man hours, with processes, the timeline, what's got to be done before the next thing. So
I'm trying to put this in a more simplistic basis for a small business, but here the aspect is that you need to have a group update as to where we are, so that you create the accountability, but also the one thing which we didn't talk about, and that's the aspect of celebration. When people do achieve goals,
all important,
that there has to be celebration.
Probably most,
and there has to be acknowledgement.
Yeah, because we don't get pats on the back normally.
No, normally people are looking for what's wrong.
Right.
Where do we screw up? So the aspect here is you need to have celebration. You need to have acknowledgement. You need attaboys or attagirls to move things forward, because people need to feel good about it.
Some yahoos.
A yahoo, right.
Right.
But no, I do that better than you, because I got the little whoo in the end.
You did.
Yeah. Whoo.
So by that, then, we've defined the investment, which is how, with the people, places, and things, and all of that toward the goal. And then I guess the final thing is we identified the obstacles.
Well, the obstacles to me are part of the tactics that you have to overcome. But yes, you have to identify the obstacles, because otherwise you run into a roadblock that's not expected. And
in the partnering meetings, this is one of the things I found to be most successful, is identifying the issues that they saw going in, not taking care of them initially, but just defining what they thought they were, and then going back and looking at what was an FYI, what's a talking point, and what issues actually needed to be resolved, and then creating an action plan for that, with who's responsible for what, by when, given to whom, and distributed through whatever channels necessary in order to get everybody informed.
And then also recognizing new obstacles that might be there. But I think you ought to tell people where they can find more of this information that can help them.
You did it earlier, and what we have is information, worksheets, and things that are available, small business curriculum, on practicalbizu.com. That's practicalbizu, the letter, .com. And you can also get to that through our website, twosmallbizguys.com. And we thank you for listening. Ray, thanks for all your input.
That's the number 2 on Two Small Biz Guys. And
yes, that's,
you spelled that very well, and you got a smiley face.
All right, from the head advisorologist. What a caricature. We'll be right back.
Two Small Biz Guys with Zen and Ray. We'll be back after this. As a business owner, have you ever felt alone at the top? You don't have to be. Ray Silverstein has worked with many business owners for over 20 years, facilitating peer advisory boards. He is the proverbial mentor and tormentor. A Pro President's Peer Advisory Board is a confidential monthly meeting of non-competitive owners that give support, feedback, and knowledge. They know the adage, all of us are smarter than one of us. He has walked in your shoes, having owned and sold 2 companies with sales in excess of $60 million and approximately 1,300 employees. In Young President's organization, he participated in peer advisory boards and felt it was a key to his success. His passion is to help small business owners succeed. He knows peer boards work when you are open, don't feel like you know it all, are willing to put issues on the table, and willing to take criticism. Be his guest at a pro advisory board meeting to see if it works for you. There's no commitment to join, and you'll have a great experience. To sample a free pro business owner peer board, email ray@propres.com. That's ray@propres.com. There's no commitment or charge. You're listening to Two Small Biz Guys. Now, back to your hosts, Zen Benefiel and Ray Silverstein.
Welcome back. I'm Zen and
I'm Ray.
And together we are Two Small Biz Guys. Oh, come on, Ray.
It's a chorus. We got.
I know you're old, but you can keep up better than that. You're usually way ahead of me.
I know. I'm way ahead of you. I finished it already. You just didn't hear it.
Okay, good.
Faster than speeding sound.
Leaping tall buildings. So we're your advisorologists. We're talking about goal setting, planning. Right now we're going to get into what kind of goals you might consider are necessary for yourself and your business.
Right. So basically, my feeling is that I personally said, as I mentioned before, business goals, personal goals, which include family, whatever, health goals, and activities that I like to accomplish in that year.
So what are your experiences with the pro groups? You've worked with hundreds of people in the several decades now that you've been doing this. What do you find from your experience are the usual suspects, if you will, in the goal-setting process?
Well, people generally will say, first of all, as I mentioned earlier, most people don't set goals, but the ones who do are the ones who really achieve more.
Can you get that we're wanting to encourage you to set goals?
Yes, we want to encourage, but...
And support.
Yeah.
And we've got the mechanism.
That's right. But the aspect of what I find is that people generally will set goals. I have one fellow, for example, recently who was talking about retirement. So his goal wants to...
the exit strategy.
He wants to build a home in South Carolina. So he figures he's going to be out in 3 years. So what does he have to accomplish this year to build this home in South Carolina? So he's saying, the first thing I need to do is find a realtor and to find the real estate I'm looking for, and then move forward on this aspect. So his goal is really saying, okay, I want a retirement.
See, I would almost think you'd want to design the home first and then look for the place.
No, he didn't do it that way, but
yeah,
maybe
okay.
the different strokes to different folks.
Yeah,
but,
well,
but the aspect
exactly.
is that, okay, he's saying, I have another fellow I'm working with in one of my groups that says he wanted to retire in 5 years.
Which
And
paddles in the creek, so to speak?
So
Strokes.
But he looked at it strictly from the numerical part, how much money or assets he would need at a certain time in order to retire with a certain lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
So he was saying, I need X amount of dollars in 5 years. I'm at Y dollars now. What do I have to do in each year? So he's looking at it from the aspect of retirement. But I think that when people get involved in goal setting, they really should take and say, let's assume that it's a family relationship, and you have kids at home or kids out of the home. The aspect is, what do you do to enhance that family relationship? How do you move this forward?
I think empty nesters actually get into the aspect more of planning and strategy and goal setting, because up until that time, it's just kind of taking care of the day-to-day when the kids are growing and having the needs, and you're kind of driven by what they need and what... you can set some goals, but those are mostly financial of what you're going to be able to put back in order to afford to send them to college, right?
That could be a financial goal, but there also could be the educational goal for kids as to what school they might want to go to if they're going to go to school, or what they want to do in life afterwards. Maybe vocational training.
Don't ever grow up, by the way.
Well, that's right. Well,
it's a trap.
No matter how old you get, your kids are always kids. So.
Right. And that little kid inside each of us still wants to come out and play.
Oh, I always want to play.
I know you do.
My mother used to say, play, play, play. That was my goal, to play. So,
I want to play more during the week.
Okay. But the aspect is, so when a person has...
2 rounds of 18 holes just isn't enough.
Well, that's because it would be for me because I don't keep score. I like golf
Well,
to me is one and another.
Exactly.
But when people have kids, goals for kids might be what school maybe they want to go to. Now, there's a lot of pressure put on kids by some of these parents in that respect, and maybe the kids sometimes burn out. But there are goals that you can create for family and activities and environments. So the aspect is, with family, do you want to set goals that are going to be possible burnouts, or do you want to create goals that are really going to accomplish something?
Make everybody happy.
Well,
That's a good start.
if happiness is the goal, that's a very good start.
Well,
So
we
the
could be
question
like
is
Bhutan and have our gross national product as happiness.
happiness. Okay, we'll measure that by birthday parties.
Well, don't you have to be somewhat? I mean, if you're not happy doing what you're doing, if you're not having some joy in life, if you're not loving what you're doing, then why the heck are you doing it?
I agree. Well, that's the aspect is like when I talk to business owners.
Right.
And one of the questions I ask them, when you go to work, are you happy with going to work? If you have an employee that...
Yeah, do you get up out of bed going, wow, another day to do stuff?
Yeah, or do you say, oh, it's another day, and Susie is such a pain.
I got to go in and deal with blah, 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 blah.
So my comment to them
yada,
is...
yada.
So my comment to them is, if Susie is a downer for you and it's your business...
Fire her.
Well, do something. Do
Right.
something.
Well, yeah, that's pretty drastic. And of course, you got to go through the process of, looking at them, providing, maybe even helping them with some goal setting. What do you need to do to prepare or to propel yourself into a better position, not only in your own mind, but within your capacity to perform in the organization?
Well, I think business owners have a responsibility to their employees for training and education and trying to help them move to where they want to move.
Most of the time, that's severely overlooked.
But also you get to the point where I have some business owners, this is kind of a reverse discussion, who get very upset with some of their employees because they feel that person has so much more potential.
Are we working with a 5-speed or an automatic?
And the person doesn't want to move up.
True, that they've risen as far as they want to go, and they're happy with where they're at, and they just want to come and collect a check and go home.
And so when I get involved in that discussion, I say, basically you're creating a problem for yourself. It's not the employee's problem. But the aspect here is that I think there's a responsibility for the business owner to help that employee progress to where where that person would like to get to.
So we're speaking of growth, and that might even be, in any business, it's your growth in sales, right?
Well, sales is only one measurement. It's a very easy measurement to make. Either you achieve it or you don't. But if within a business, there's the aspect of how culture, which is a harder thing to measure. Is a company really achieving the culture that they'd want to have? Is productivity within the business is the level you want it to be at?
And then you got to look at the metrics that you need to create or to monitor or even be aware of that would indicate whether you're successful or not.
Yeah, that's correct. Well, the aspect goes back to if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. So you're trying to create metrics to measure, but there are some, this is contrary to what I said before, but there are some aspects which are kind of subjective.
Well, there's tangible, there's intangible, there's objective, and there's subjective.
So you have some aspects within
That's the water
business.
cooler.
That's the water cooler subjective aspect?
Right.
We're not going to subject me to that. That's
you put a listening device there so you can
I
hear the scuttlebutt of what's going on.
I can see what kind of boss you would be. You're a big brother.
I like to know. It's not that I want to control. It's easier to know where you're going and how to get there and to influence others along the way when you know where they're at. It's like any marketing effort. You've got to know who your audience is, where they're listening from, how they think, what appeals to them.
No, I think you just want to have a family business and you want to be big brother. Oh, we got Zen quiet.
I'm about to be a great grandfather, so I think that's more the opportunity that I'm looking for.
Okay. But the aspect is that so in creating goals, they can be in wherever area that you need to have them. They don't have to be just in sales. They doesn't have to be just in profitability. It can be in satisfaction of what your life you want your life to be. When people come into my peer groups, my aspect is to help them achieve what they want to achieve. It's not what I want to achieve for them. It's what they want to achieve for themselves.
Right.
And so that's kind of a learning process, because you come out of a business environment where it's always go, 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 and you want to satisfy certain things, but not everybody has the same goals and satisfactions. So the question is, help them achieve what they want to achieve. And going back to goal setting, people have to be able to identify or think about what they want to achieve, what's in it for them.
Here's some questions that we'll leave you with on the way out. What's the aim of this discussion, in a goal-setting discussion? What would need to happen for you to walk away feeling that this time was well spent? If you could grant your wish for this session, what would it be? What would you like to happen that is not happening now, and what would you like not to happen that is happening now? What outcome would you like from this session? Can we do that in the time we have available? What do we want to achieve long term? How does success look like? How much personal control or influence do you have over your goal? What would be a milestone along the way? When do you want to achieve it by? Is that realistic? Is that positive, challenging, attainable? What will the real value be to you? How will you measure it? So if you'd like to know more, we've got two different websites, twosmallbizguys.com, and you can get the worksheets from Practical BizU, that's practicalbizu.com. And Ray, your final advice, expertise, and your want for others?
Well, my final advice would be is that there's no downside to setting goals. If you don't achieve them, don't get yourself blown out of the water by it. It just means that learn as to what didn't go right so you can be better in the future, and always think in the positive light.
Absolutely. The ray of light. Be, do, and have. Set your goals. Be flexible. Be gentle with yourself on the way. And be the dream. Yours. Thanks for listening. We're Two Small Biz Guys.
Thank you for listening to Two Small Biz Guys with Zen Benefiel and Ray Silverstein. You can hear Two Small Biz Guys live every Wednesday at noon, or catch their show on demand anytime 24/7 right here on StarWorldWideNetworks.com.